Welcome to the Eye on Annapolis Local Business Spotlight. There are thousands of locally owned businesses in the area, some small and some large. Some you may know and others you don't. But one thing they all have in common is a great story, and we want to share it with you. Join us every Saturday as we talk to the founders, the owners, and the managers of local businesses you have come to know and love, and those you will come to know and love. Now here's your host, John Frenay, with this week's Local Business Spotlight.
Well, we rolled down here to 130 Admiral Cochran Drive, which really is not on Admiral Cochran Drive. The entrance is on Harry Truman Parkway, but we're here with CPE Clinic and Dr. Teresa Shank, who is the director of, let's see if I get this right, Psychological Services.
Psychological Services, correct.
Thank you very much for inviting us here. And
thanks for coming to talk to me.
well, you guys seem to be a soup to nuts kind of mental health practice. Does that, I mean, it's probably not a great tagline, but that's sort of what what I gather from, I'm looking at your website, which is cpeclinic.com. And you guys run sort of the whole gamut of any kind of mental health issues.
We do. So we have 3 psychiatric providers on the staff. So Dr. Michael Labalarte is the director of everything here. He's a board certified child and adolescent psychiatrist. And then we have 2 doctoral level nurse practitioners who do psychiatric care as well on this staff. So that's half of, part of it is we're a psychology staff. So then we have 6 psychologists, 3 of us are full-time, and then we have some part-time people that come in and do work here as well. So yeah, we offer everything. We have an excellent person who does evaluations for kids, including learning disabilities, attention problems, autism, which is a pretty hot topic right now. Yeah. And then we have Dr. Greenberg, who does mostly parent training, acting out kids with what we call externalizing disorders like ADHD, oppositional behaviors, things like that. We have Dr. Megan Kyle, who specializes mostly in teenagers who are struggling with mood issues, self-harm, suicidal ideation, things like that. And then myself, and I specialize in anxiety and OCD.
Do you guys have somebody on staff that builds a cool Lego table out in the waiting room?
We allow our children to come do that.
You've got some talented children there. It was a very nice castle.
And did you notice my board?
I did.
So this is a little thing that I just put it out, and the kids that come in. It's one kid I worked with just kind of started a holiday theme. And so the kids come in and there's a theme going on for whatever it is, 4th of July. Now it's Halloween. And they just contribute to the board.
Well, I'm glad you're with Halloween as opposed to like Walmart that's probably rolling into Christmas.
This is true.
At this point, so you're up with the holidays. But what does CPE stand for? That's just sort of a
child psychiatry expert. So Dr. Labalarte had his own individual practice for a number of years, and he called his practice child psychiatry expert. It may also have something to do with Marvel Comics, but I don't really know. He's very into Marvel Comics, which is actually a draw for kids who come here, as his office is actually decorated with Marvel comic things.
Very cool.
But then when I came on, they just call it CPE Clinic.
Gotcha. Well, and you do have 2 offices. You've got one up in Lutherville, which is like the Towson North, southern Baltimore County.
It's like right at the intersection of 695 and 83. Hopkins has some offices up there as well.
And everything else. But, I am so glad that, when I was growing up, mental health was just sort of like, okay, crazy Aunt Karen, we just don't talk about her. We'll bring her over on Thanksgiving and Christmas and, maybe this summer for the reunion, but there was that bad situation that happened last year. But I'm so glad that mental health has really entered into the daily conversation. And, I think it's so important. I hope, I'm sure that you agree, is that you've got to treat it like a broken leg. I mean, if your leg is broken, yes, you probably can hobble around on it, but it's just not going to be good. And if something, I hate to say that your head is broken, but your brain is broken, but if there's something mentally going on, you need to get help. You need to get somebody to help you work through it. And it could be a spouse, a partner, a friend, to help you work through something and something minor, or something a little bit more professional. I mean, you've got, as you mentioned, some of the OCD and depression and everything else, and that's where you guys come in. I just love that it's becoming a thing. And I remember I had a discussion with Kat Ulbricht, who used to be the area director for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And I think I got that right. And, she said that the simplest thing that you can do to help prevent suicide is ask somebody, hey, how you doing?
Right.
Just that could open up any number of things, and it could just trigger, it could open up nothing, but just trigger something to do that. And she's also the one that told me this, said, nobody commits suicide, they die from suicide.
Exactly.
And
yes,
I remember we did a podcast and she kept scolding me through it because a couple of times I kept saying it. So it's in my head.
It's unfortunately still very common that people will say that they committed suicide as if it's some kind of a crime. They committed a crime. It's dying by suicide. Yeah.
Right. She says, do you commit cancer?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So talked about some of the different areas that you work in there. Now you work with OCD?
I work with OCD, anxiety. OCD is my ultimate passion. I just really love working with it.
And that's obsessive-compulsive disorder?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then anxiety disorders like separation anxiety disorders, social anxiety, specific phobias. There are all kinds of different anxiety. Generalized anxiety disorder is another area. And then I also work with something called body focused repetitive behaviors, BFRB for short, which actually look confused.
Throw out the acronyms. I'm ready for them.
All right. So those are things like people who pull their hair out or pick their skin. Nail biting is another body focus repetitive.
As I put my hands in my pockets.
I know someone who can help you with that. And so those are things that people engage in that actually people often assume that they're doing it because they're anxious, but they could be doing it because they're restless. They could be doing it because they're bored. They could be doing it because they're anxious. And so we try to work to help them stop those behaviors and find other ways to soothe their nervous system.
Because I am a nail biter, and I see it now. I'm all self-conscious. But I mean, I've always chalked it up personally to just being bored. It's like I got something to do. It's okay, and then and then there's like a little thing hanging.
Exactly.
I'm like, okay, I got to get rid of that.
Drives you crazy. Yeah. Yes.
But I wouldn't. I personally don't think it's like an obsessive thing that
It's a compulsive thing.
Or a compulsive thing that I need to have, my fingers in my mouth. But it's interesting. But I mean, because you mentioned that, it could be bored, anxious. It could be any number of different things.
Right. It's definitely something that people always assume it has to do with anxiety. But lots of people who have ADHD go into these kinds of behaviors because they have to sit still. And so they find something to do with their hands or their mouth.
Yeah. Way back when you used to twiddle your thumbs. And
So one thing kids can do is get fidgets where they can then keep their hands busy in other ways rather than picking at their skin.
I tried all sorts of things. I tried the rubber bands.
Oh.
We used to snap the rubber bands on the thing. The Bitter Alice, it used to be called, but it was sort of like a nail polish that you put on that made it taste gross. And I just kept my tongue out of the thing and just...
Yeah.
It was fine. I could get around that. It was not a problem here. But I mean, how did you get into counseling? I mean, this has been a huge, it's been a boom, obviously, for business. But I mean, how did you personally jump into this world?
Well, I originally was going to be an accountant. My dad was an accountant and an attorney, and I really love math and I like organization and detail. And then I went to a display at the Science Museum in Boston and saw a display on childbirth, and that moment decided, no, now I'm going to go to med school. So I was going to go to med school and become a obstetrician gynecologist, and that was moving along well until I hit organic chemistry and was like, this is Chinese to me. I cannot understand what is happening here. And lost my confidence in that, and then spent a couple of years just trying to figure out what should I do, physical therapy, nurse practitioner. I knew I wanted to do something in healthcare. And I had a professor who said to me, you like health, you are interested in psychology, why don't you become a health psychologist? So that my training is in what's called pediatric psychology, which is working with children with physical illness, things like cancer, kidney disease, and then you help them manage the psychological aspects of their medical illness. That's what my training is in. But that was real big in the Midwest. I was in Michigan at the time and working in a hospital where I would just go to different clinics. But then when I came to the East Coast, it wasn't available here.
Picked a good place and a good time. I mean, and that's something that people don't really think about. That, I mean, if you've got some sort of a terminal illness or something like that, you've got to fight the physical aspects of this, but then you've also got that whole mental thing. And I know, before my mom passed, they were talking about amputating part of her leg because of an infection. And that was the whole thing. He said, well, I can give you percentages on surviving surgery and physical therapy, but when somebody looks down and says, where's the rest of the leg that's been with me for 85 years? It's anybody's guess. And to help people go through that is huge. And you primarily deal with children, though?
I do. When I came to this area, I got a job at Kennedy Krieger Institute in Baltimore City and came in as a training director for their postdoctoral program. Right after finishing my postdoc, came in and we did research and evaluations on kids. So I was there for 5 years. I really, really missed doing therapy and tried to work something out there, couldn't work it out. So ended up leaving and going out into the community and starting to do therapy again. And then I was just doing kind of general therapy, and I was at a practice in Columbia, and I had a girl come in. She was probably 9 and she had OCD, and I had no idea how to help her. I just totally changed the course of my career because it bothered me so much. I didn't know how to help her. I left that practice and came to one in Severna Park where I spent 13 years. And I just really committed myself to learning everything I could about treating OCD.
How does one OCD manifests itself in any number of different ways?
Yes, it does.
I mean, I could tap the door 3 times on the way, and I could put the light on once, and sit down and move my legs and bite my nails and the whole nine yards. But I mean, how do you come up with? I mean, you said you were faced with an instance where you didn't know how to help this girl, and I've got to imagine that because nothing is the same from patient to patient, that. How do you work through that? I mean, do you just keep picking to find a path?
So the content of the fears or concerns the child could have can be different. The content can be different from child, but the process is always the same. It's always they have intrusive thoughts, urges, images sometimes that come in, they're unwanted, and the child will do something to make these images go away or make the distress go away that these obsessions cause. And so it doesn't really matter what the content is about the OCD. It really matters that process.
Let's get back before to find out what's triggering it.
So, and sometimes we can figure out, like, why did this start? There might be something that the child had that was a very upsetting, overwhelming experience that they then think, I never, ever want to go through that again. Or they might observe someone else going through something and think, I never, ever want that to happen to me. Sometimes it just seems to come out of the blue, though, for some kids. But most of the people that I work with can trace it back. Even the adults that I work with can trace it back to, I remember being a kid and learning about cancer, let's say, and then I just started to worry about cancer, and that stuck with me. People who have perfectionism, they remember that since they were little kids of never wanting to make a mistake.
Interesting. With mental health, and this is a question I've been wanting to ask somebody, and you're probably the best expert to do. Do we need to treat this as like we do our bodies? Okay, we go in and we get a checkup every year. My eyes, they're due for a checkup. I understand. But I mean, we do that. We go to the dentist, we go to the eye doctor,
Yes.
we go to the hearing doctor, we go,
Mhm.
to the skin doctor. We do all of these things for this physical body that we have, but we
Mhm.
never really think about our brain
Mhm.
and how our mental health. Do you?
Mhm.
I mean, is that something that
Yeah.
we should do?
I love this question. It's I think absolutely. It's really strange to me still that we have these major organs in the body. You know, you get your heart checked, you get your lungs checked, your skin is checked. Every other major organ in the body is checked regularly. But your brain is a major organ and it's treated so differently. And I think that's because mental health often affects behaviors. And so people judge the person who's struggling with mental health as they have some kind of character defect.
Which is horrible.
It is horrible. And unfortunately, it still exists. I think it's getting better. Kids talk a lot more about mental health now. They know a lot more about mental health now. So I think it is getting better, but I love this question. It'd be awesome if people would have a mental health professional that they were checking in with like twice a year just to see how are things going. We understand how typical development should be proceeding along. We could look at the different areas, academics or social development, their sense of self, and just to see how things are going along.
How would
But
that
it's not
look?
typical.
How would that look like? Would that look like just a conversation like we were having here for a half hour, an hour, twice a year?
It could also, there are questionnaires that could be handed out where we could be screening for
evaluations, I guess.
anxiety, depression, social withdrawal, all those kinds of things that we could do on a regular basis. And some of the pediatricians, definitely, they give little questionnaires. And as an adult, well, I think everybody's being screened now for depression. You go in and they ask you questions like,
Sure.
Have you lost interest in your usual activities? So yeah, it could just be a conversation. I would definitely recommend it be with someone who specializes with children because development is such a dynamic process.
'Cause it's so, it's got to be so critical to get somebody that may be having issues younger to be able to figure out how
Absolutely.
to, whether it's to, I don't know whether a cure is the right word, but I mean to minimize them, to be able to figure out how to cope with them, how to deal with them, to do that. And, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to me to be able to do, to sit there and say, well, hey, okay. And you're obviously trained to be able to sit there and say, hey, he's got some issues going on,
Right.
with look at the way he's biting his nails or whatever it may be. And I would recommend, look into that, look into just having that conversation that makes sense. What makes you get up and skip to work every morning? It's obviously not the traffic coming.
No, it's not.
coming
Definitely not the traffic coming down here. But gosh, children are resilient. They really are. I chose to specialize in working with kids because when you get in there early enough before, let's say, the OCD they think it's just a part of them, or they have a really hard time separating themselves from the OCD. With little kids in general, they know, hey, it didn't used to be this way. And I miss, I don't know, hanging out with my friends or having fun. And they're very motivated to feel better. And they're generally flexible. You can set up little reward systems to get them to do their therapy work. And so and the kids that I work with, they are going to leave this work with skills that will serve them in life in general. So anything I teach them is going to be applicable to their entire life. So if I can, it's like a double win. You help them feel better from their disorder, but then you also equip them for having a healthier life.
I think that kids today, I mean, so much different than kids from my generation. Okay. We never had social media. Thank God, dodge that bullet. I mean, bullying took a whole different face when I was younger. Okay. That was somebody that shoved you down on the playground.
Yeah.
They maybe punched you. Anymore now you've got the online bullying and it's not something that's restricted to the schoolyard. It's now invading your home. It's invading your phones, which we didn't have. We didn't, all the social media is just absolutely nuts and it's toxic. And yet with the advent of the discussions of mental health and, work balance, life and everything else. I mean, when I was growing up, it was like, you go to school, you go to college, you get a job, you work for 60 years, you get a watch, you retire, and you spend the pension. Okay, so we don't have watches, we don't have pensions. Nobody stays at a place for 60 years anymore.
Right.
But, the kids have really, I think I say the kids, but the young adults have really figured out that work-life balance is absolutely critical. And that's something that I didn't have, you were so focused to, grind away at the work. You sit there and you look and like, well, no, I'm going to give up the overtime today because I plan to go out and do trivia night with my besties. And I need that. And I think that's just a wonderful thing to sit there and break apart. And that would be great to break apart from your work, from your spouse, your partner, from, everybody's got to have their own time and their own thing. And I do admire that about the kids, but I certainly don't, I wouldn't want to be one. That is for sure. But what are the main, and issues sounds like it's a bad word, but the main
challenges
that you're seeing in your practice with kids today? I mean, you talked about the OCD, and I mean, is it depression? Is it the anxiety? Is it?
So anxiety is the most common disorder in children. So, and because I specialize in it, I definitely see a lot of kids with anxiety, OCD. I think that point that you just said, one of the things that I think is negative about social media, in addition to the bullying and all the comparison that it goes on, with my life doesn't look like that, my body doesn't look like that, I don't have a boyfriend, whatever it is that they're constantly comparing themselves. But I think the other thing that's happening right now is that just what are just typical human experiences. Sometimes we get disappointed. Sometimes we get frustrated. Sometimes we're lonely. Sometimes we feel sad. Those are all just normal parts of being humans. And I think that they're getting over pathologized. Like, oh, if you feel this way, you shouldn't feel this way. Like, make it go away. And I think that that's another thing, that kids are seeing themselves as damaged when they're not necessarily. You're only considered to have a disorder when it really impacts your functioning. So you can't do some of your major self-care or attending school or participating with friends. Not everyone who has feelings that are difficult to tolerate have a disorder.
Well, that's the thing when you do go on social media, particularly Facebook, and you see all of your high school classmates in there, and when you look at them and go, wow, who are those old people? Wait a minute, I went to high school with them.
Yes, it's true.
But as you sit there and you look at, everyone puts their best foot forward. I mean, you obviously do that when you want to come into that first date, you put the best foot forward and everything else. But Facebook is a perfect breeding ground for establishing these fake perfect lives with the fake perfect people and the filters and stuff like that you see. I mean, I've got some friends that would never think about posting any picture up until we've applied the make me look 30 years younger filter on my face. I jokingly look at me like, who the hell's that? What? Right. That's nothing like they look like. And I, portraying that and the need to feel perfect obviously lends to I feel a little damaged. And that makes sense.
Yes.
That really is my aha moment out of this. It's just sort of joking before we started recording there, but what are your thoughts on Tylenol?
Oh, there's no link. No link between vaccine. Unfortunately, I don't know if you know the story behind the vaccine thing, but the person who published that there was some link between vaccines and autism was, that research has been debunked many, many, many times. And I think that they lost their license to practice medicine, but unfortunately,
details.
Yes, exactly. So autism is a complicated disorder. It's been around for a very long time, much longer than Tylenol has been around. So,
anyway. and we never really knew about it either, too. And we knew something existed, but that autism and some of these disorders that we're hearing about were never things when I was growing up. It was just, there was something wrong. There was something off.
Right.
The kid's hyper, the kid's,
right. Right.
Put him in timeout, put him on the steps, he'll be fine. And, it's so we're in a different place in a different way and we recognize it. And, thanks to people like you guys there.
Mhm.
And what I think is really beautiful about this practice here with CPE Clinic is that if I come to Dr. Shank with a problem or with a concern, and through some discussions and maybe some tests and evaluations, stuff like that, you figure that, okay, well, this is a little bit more than just something. You've got the ability to talk with a psychiatrist
Yes.
that has the ability to, I guess, I'm guessing one of the main differences is that a psychiatrist is an MD. Am I correct?
Yes.
That can prescribe medicines,
Yes.
and as a non-MD,
Correct.
nurse practitioners or whatever, they can't, or
The nurse
counselors.
practitioners can as well.
Okay.
They're psychiatric nurse practitioners. Yep.
But you guys have, I'm looking from the website again, at cpeclinic.com, is you've got coaching, which is a new word that's a new buzzword in the world for me. But you've got, group therapy, you've got individual therapy, you've got psychology, you've got,
testing. We do
Yeah,
the testing. Yep.
you've got the whole range
Mhm.
to be able to do that. Now, on the business aspect of this, is this all insurance covered, or
We are out of network, as
most
many
everybody, I
many
think, is?
practices are. So actually, that is something that I think is what a couple of things that I think are unique about us among practices in Anne Arundel County. As far as we know, we tried to do some research to find out, but we believe we are the only practice in Anne Arundel County that offers, in terms of our OCD treatment, we have the team of a psychiatrist, we have someone who works with the parents, and then we have myself who works with individuals. And if a family calls in here, they're going to fill out some checklists. We're going to score them. And then as a team, we talk together about who should this child start with here. So we can be extremely streamlined in our treatment. So someone else might go to another therapist. That therapist works with the child for a while. Let's say 3 months in, they say, I'm not making enough progress. I need you to do a
Let's refer it out.
psychiatry person. It takes them 2 months to get into the psychiatrist, and then they get into the psychiatrist. Now the psychiatrist and the therapist need to communicate, but they're in different places. And here we are constantly up and down the hallway
That's
communicating.
huge.
Yeah, it is huge. And it is efficient, which is going to go back to the out-of-network thing. So out-of-network means most insurances have some kind of out-of-network benefit. What it means is that families pay us, and then they submit to their insurance company to get reimbursed for the services.
Right. And of course, insurance companies are not on board with mental health as they should be.
No, they are
because
not.
Turn around and they say, well, we'll give you 6 visits and you should
Correct.
be cured by then.
Exactly. So for us here with having this model and working together, we can turn things around pretty quickly, because I can sit with a child for a couple of visits and know this child really needs to see the psychiatrist, because let's say they're in here and they're doing compulsions the entire time they're in here. I really can't break through that. I need medicine on board to be able to help them think more clearly, tolerate the anxiety. And I can do that quickly. I can just refer them. They can walk out of my thing, get an
2 doors
appointment
down
with the psychiatrist. Then the psychiatrist, I can fill them in. He can see them, say, hey, I started them on this. And then we'll continue to communicate with each other. We have these informal communications, but we also meet once a week for case conference.
That's wonderful. And I'm seeing a little bit of a trend on medical professionals coordinating care and taking more of a whole body type of an experience. I remember when I went to my dentist, and I had a horrible fear of dentists. I hate them. And
oh, me too.
Yeah.
We could bond over that.
My general practitioner said, "Oh, you need to, just a regular physical." So I go to the dentist and check that out. And I went to the dentist. I said, "Oh, well, my GP said I should get this checked out, and I really don't want to be here." But and he was like, "Really, your GP suggested that you come see me?" And he's like, "Wow." And it's starting to see that you're sitting there and you're realizing that how everything in the body is a lot interconnected. I know the dental health works into the heart, and and obviously mental health works into everything else. So it's great when you can sit there and, if I'm going in for a physical and he just happens to notice that I'm maybe he thinks I may be depressed or something like that, to be able to say, hey, look, here's CPE Clinic. Why don't you give them a call and just go have a conversation?
Mm-hmm.
And that really starts it, because mental health, when we're healthy and able to walk and to run and play and laugh and everything else is great. And certainly you need that in your mind and in your brain when you do that as well.
Yeah.
What do we need to know about CPE that we don't know?
Well, I think one thing that you don't know yet, or that I'd love the community to know, is we would be happy to come out and talk to anybody who wants to learn about child, teenage mental health. That's something that we are very interested in sharing what we know, sharing what we see.
So like a community group type?
We would do open houses here if, people could come in and listen to presentations that we do. I do get in touch. We do get in touch with the schools. Of course, we get referrals
Sure.
from the schools. But just to go to PTA meetings or come in and talk to teachers, about how to recognize maybe different mental health disorders in kids. And yeah, so I think that's something that
I think, I'll say that I think that's huge too as well, because you don't know what you don't know. To be able to come in and sit there and say, okay, well, hey, this, the more I've talked to, mental health professionals, whether, I haven't done too many through here, but just what I've learned in, mental health. We need to continue the conversation. That
Absolutely.
conversation needs to be out front and center.
Yeah. I think also another thing that what I've noticed, I think we've all noticed here, is there's been just a burgeoning of new treatment methods going on that people are jumping on bandwagons about, and they don't really have the research support for them, and that we call it evidence-based treatment. And we are highly committed to evidence-based treatment here. And so I think it's very overwhelming when I put myself in a position of a parent right now and trying to navigate just the hundreds of therapists that are out there, and then all these different acronyms of this type of treatment and that type of treatment. And how do you know which one who should you call, so the International OCD Foundation, for example, has a lot of articles on it about what are actually research-based treatments for OCD, for example. So that would be a guide that could help parents find the right person. It can take from the time that the child starts showing symptoms of OCD, on average about 2.5 years to get into the right treatment. So I highly recommend that people go to a specific international organization and look at what are the research-based treatments for that particular disorder.
And the evidence-based. Oh, and before we leave, I heard about online when I was researching this OCD Awareness Week.
OCD Awareness Week is October 12th to the 18th. So it's coming up.
Okay.
And it is an international event. Things will be taking place all over the world. It started in the United States. And then, so there's this International OCD Foundation, which is up in Boston. And then there are these things called affiliates. So there's a Mid-Atlantic affiliate here, and they are actually having a walk this Saturday at Wheaton Regional Park. And they're going to do a little walk, and they're going to raise money. And it's also to bring attention to OCD and try to help break the stigma of OCD. Okay. So that will be going on. And then there'll be events all through the week from the 12th to the 18th, some online. People are going to do social media campaigns. And then on the 18th, there's actually like a World Walk Day where people can register. They could walk themselves. They could walk with friends. There are some organized walks around the United States, again, to finish the week and raise money for OCD awareness. So that's what's happening. It's always in October.
Very cool.
So another thing you asked before, what do we not know about CPE? Another important thing. We tend to get kids and teenagers in here who have been with other therapists before, and the therapy, it hasn't worked, or the child got a little better and then they got really, really bad. And And that's something that is a common scenario for us, is that we're seeing kids who have been with other providers. It is exceptionally important, if a child has OCD symptoms, that you go to an OCD specialist. There's just no, it's like if your child has a cardiac condition, go to a cardiologist.
You're not taking them to the gynecologist to figure out what's...
So because it isn't like just, we don't just work with the kids, oh, we're going to teach you some breathing and relaxation methods. This is not what OCD treatment is. You really need somebody who's got specialized training in treating OCD. And if you're seeing somebody who treating your child for anxiety, it's really important that you know, how is that affecting the child the most? Is it affecting their thinking the most? It is affecting their body the most. You know, they're tense, keyed up. They have a lot of stomach aches. They vomit before school, things like that. What are they avoiding? Or do they have compulsions? It's very important that the therapist that you're working with is addressing all three of those areas, not just, I'm going to teach your child some deep breathing, because that is not going to help your child when your child's thoughts are racing a mile a minute on, you know, what happens if I fail this test? I'm never going to get into college. I'm going to live on the street. I'll never have a job. Deep breathing is not going to do a thing for that.
Snowballed out.
Yeah.
Do you find the most that people, and again, I've got my own opinion, I think, on this, that are resistant to therapy initially?
I don't know, because they're here in our door, so they're definitely not resistant at that point. I think the toughest group for me are middle school boys.
Oh. Wow. Okay.
Middle school boys having to talk about their thoughts and feelings. It's like you might as well stick a needle in their eye. They would much rather do that. So, you know, for those kids, I mean, I work with parents and children. I never just work with a child alone, which is another thing in looking for a good fit for a therapist. The parents should be informed. What is happening? They should be involved. They play such an important role. So if your child's going into a room and coming out 45 to 60 minutes later, and you really don't know what they were talking about and what your role is, that's not the best model for your child.
Sure. And obviously there are some things that are confidential between you and
it'd be one thing if you have a 16-year-old, you know, going in and but at least have some contact with the therapist. I mean, you're such an important part of your child's life that to not know how to help them is it's just not the best scenario. But you're correct. Confidentiality, particularly with teens, is very important.
Yeah, I imagine you lose it, you're done.
Mm-hmm. I did ask my youngest client with OCD. I said, what do you think people should know about OCD? And she said that OCD is bad and you shouldn't listen to him. That's one thing that you do, is you kind of make it like a personify it, make it a little flea, make it something that's trying to boss you around, and you're not going to listen to it. So she wanted people to know that, and her mother wanted people to know that it can feel very overwhelming when you see your child suffering with OCD, but to trust the process and that there is help and there is support and you're not alone as a parent. And so those were some messages I wanted to get out to anybody who might be concerned about their child. It's a very treatable disorder. It does require a specialist, but it's very treatable. And I think the earlier you can get your kid in and in front of somebody who can tell you, yes, it's OCD. Oh, no, it's anxiety. And here's what we do, and we can help your child, and we're going to have your child like back to just being who they used to be. There's a lot of hope at a time when parents are feeling pretty hopeless. I want them to know it's very treatable.
Well, you know, I think Anne Arundel County does have a wealth of resources, both private and public, if you will, to get help for mental health. Mm-hmm. There are plenty out there. I would suggest that anybody that, I mean, I say we all, but many people have children that are rolling through the teenage years, which are not the easiest years to deal with. Nope. And with everything that's rolling down into the minds of these kids and adults, mm-hmm. Take care of your brain. Make mm-hmm. sure that it's happening. I mean, it could be something, as you mentioned, something that you witnessed, something that you thought about that just won't leave your mind.
Exactly.
And there are ways to cope with it. There's ways to deal with it, and I think certainly I like the idea of an annual visit for a checkup or maybe a semi-annual one. But check out CPEClinic.com. Again, they've got offices right here on Admiral Cochrane Drive, which is right sort of in the pseudo-parole area, just outside of Annapolis and up in Lutherville, up in Towson, Baltimore. And Dr. Shank, I want to thank you so much for your time and your expertise and inviting me in this morning. And
it's my pleasure.
No cure for my nails, though, right?
I can help you with that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks for listening to this week's Local Business Spotlight. Please make sure to visit eyeonannapolis.net for all your local news, events, and opinion. And in case you haven't already, please subscribe to the Eye on Annapolis Daily News Brief, where we bring you all the day's local news direct to your phone, tablet, or computer in about 10 minutes. It comes to you at 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday, and you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.